Right-wingers, this one's for you. If you think Trump is your guy, my question is, what is it you think he's going to do for you? Just hold on to that question in your heart. The answer to that question. What is it you think he's going to do for you? Because I can tell you that Trump is just a Republican. I know. You think he's something special. He ain't. He's doing the same Big Con has done to you for my whole life, and I keep seeing you fall for it. I can't fathom why. I'm starting to get a bit of an idea. I take that back. I've seen you fall for it over and 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 over again, but I have also seen me fall for stuff the Democrats do. The difference being I vote differently now. I've reacted to the reality. And I see you guys about 10 years behind where I was, and we just don't have that kind of time to start working together. You and my gang gotta gang up, because the actual enemy is billionaires. The actual enemy is people that get to have a say in how your life goes simply because they're already rich. That's a real problem. That is a sincere problem that I think both of us can agree to. You don't like George Soros buying elections. I don't like the Koch brothers, brother now, buying elections. So we ought to at least agree on that much. And yet I still see right-wingers behaving as though they're going to get something. So let me show you what the Republican Party is all about with economics. You know how the Republicans used to, they really don't anymore, but they used to have a reputation as being good with economics. You know how they always are trying to give, for example, huge tax breaks to the rich. They always say, we're going to cut taxes, and they let you believe that they're going to cut your taxes. But they're not going to cut your taxes. Or if they do, they're going to cut them by a teeny tiny little bit. And then they're going to cut the rich's taxes by a lot. And when they cut the rich's taxes by a lot, they're going to give your tax cuts an expiration date. And the rich's tax cuts, no expiration date. So actually next year, you're back to paying full taxes. But the rich, no. This was a Republican gift to them. The rich will keep not having to pay taxes. And also, even in that year where your taxes are cut, the stuff you have to pay for doesn't change. You still need roads in your town. You still need to fund the emergency services in your town. So how does that get paid for? Well, your local taxes go up, dingbat. Or you end up paying for emergency health care. Or you end up paying for a different kind of retirement where you get less money every single day because major programs you didn't even realize you were relying on get cut because they are no longer funded by taxes from rich. The rich. This is what Art Laffer came up with. His idea was that the more you cut taxes, the more people want to work. That was his general idea. Here's Sam Seder from the Majority Report explaining why that didn't work and how we know it didn't work because we tried it already in America.
But the Laffer curve has one other element. It says that if you cut taxes, you will necessarily get more revenue. Why? Because by cutting taxes in any amount, it's going to create more economic activity. You're going to get more growth, and you will get more taxes paid in volume.
In abundance.
You have more taxes paid in volume because, rich people will be paying less of a percentage of their income, but they're going to be making so much more money that they're going to end up paying more in taxes. Here's how Austin Goolsbee, and I'm not a huge fan of his, frankly, but here's how he says They looked at they asked people if they
Yeah, this is a sort of a poll of a whole bunch of economists, Goolsbee just being one of them. So here's their sort of pithy responses to what the Laffer curve is.
moon landing was real, evolution exists, tax cuts lose revenue. The research has shown this 1,000 times enough already. So the point being, okay, yeah, here's another guy, David Autor. Not aware of any evidence in recent history where tax cuts actually raise revenue. Sorry, Laffer. Chicago Booth may look plausible on a cocktail napkin or a cocktail party, but not true empirically in the U.S. That was the Laffer curve, was famously drawn on a cocktail napkin. Keep going. Chicago Booth, Richard Thaler. That's a Laffer. I mean, but we also have a very explicit real world example, and it is called the state of Kansas. And in 2012, Sam Brownback became governor of Kansas, and he brought in Arthur Laffer to be his top advisor. And they went on a whole project of cutting taxes. And Matt, I want you to Google the Kansas Art Laffer experiment and show me what the headlines are. Because after cutting taxes, the Republican-controlled Senate and Assembly in Kansas realized that it was a disaster. And now everybody's now caught on to this. But maybe you can go back, just go back like 5 years so that you see this.
As Trump proposes tax cuts, Kansas deals with aftermath.
Yes, this is all people now writing about the actual. I want to see contemporaneous headlines, because what happened in Kansas with this experiment, you got to go back, do like a time set. So just do like 2015. What happened after 2 years was that they were so decimated. Revenue was so decimated in Kansas, and they had to cut deeply into the Kansas higher education system there, destroying what was one of like the crown jewel of Kansas. They had to cut on education so deeply that a completely Republican-controlled House and Assembly raised taxes.
So try to appreciate how insane it is that when questioned about it, a Republican said that their justification for the things they are doing now with taxes, the justification is the word of this guy that he mentions.
Independent expert that you can is there an independent expert that you can point to that says that this bill will not add to our national debt? Yes or no?
Yes.
There is?
Yes.
What are they?
Art Laffer.
Pardon me?
Art Laffer.
Look at his face. He can't say it the second time without crying.
He's not wrong. God, I love the Majority Report. Go check him out if you don't already. If you're here, you do. I know. But the point stands. Republicans were hypothetically talking to. They just tried to cite this guy, Art Laffer. And then the whole room laughed. Republicans and Democrats, they all laughed because they all know. They all know what's going on. They all know how silly it is to use that guy as a justification for your policies. And we know that's an admission from the man who was just speaking, that the Republican policies that they're trying to use right now won't help you. Who says these things will work? Do you have an independent economist who says these things that you're trying to do will help the American people? Yes, he says, Art Laffer. Everybody laughs. Because everybody there has a professional interest in knowing what's going on. It's not your fault for not knowing who Art Laffer is. Really not. But it will be your fault if you ever vote for a Republican again. Because I've just explained to you what happened. He said, Art Laffer, everybody laughed. He laughed. Because they all know what a joke that is. And he just said it because he knew that before I said it to you just now, you didn't know who that was. You wouldn't get the joke, because the joke, folks, is on you. If somebody is citing Art Laffer or the Laffer curve as their justification for doing something, mention Kansas, the state that in 2012 to 2015 was run based on those principles and utterly ran out of money immediately. Lost one of the crowning achievements of the state, which was to say their public school system. They lost that. Decimated it. Because it's not good economics, in other words. The only thing it does, and the only reason they were trying to put it in place in the first place, is that it gets the rich out of paying for things that we all use. Taxes are just the funds we use to pay for things that everybody needs. And the rich, who are evil, don't want to do that. And you know they're evil because they lie to you to get it done. They bribe politicians to get up there and say, do this thing. Do this thing, folks. We think it's good economics. And to knowingly lie and to knowingly pretend that it's good economics when they know, because they couldn't hold back a laugh as they said it, they know that Laffer is laughable and they are lying. Well, if they know it's a lie and they know it's going to hurt you, and their motivations are obvious, the people that give them money told them to do this, that person is not worthy of your trust on anything ever again. That's a con artist. And if you didn't know all this before I told you, it's not your fault. But now you know. And everything that happens now, every choice you make regarding these people, this filthy party, now that you know this, that will be your fault. You will be judged. Now that I know, you know. And if you don't believe me, here's your chance to say, now that I know, you know. I'm going to judge you. It's one thing to get conned. It's another thing to go back for more. What kind of person are you, honestly? No matter what you think you get away with convincing me about yourself, you're going to have to go home with the real knowledge. You're going to have to go home knowing what you are. Everybody can be the victim of a con artist once. But somebody who is a multi-time victim of the same con artist, at some point they simply become a co-conspirator. Or maybe a masochist. I don't know. Think about what you are, Republican. Because now you know the Republican Party lies to you. You might think this isn't Donald Trump, though. You might think, no, not my boy. Not Trump. He doesn't lie. That's the Republican Party you're talking about, sir, not sweet baby boy Donald Trump. Well, it's not just economics that they're lying to you about. It is, in fact, everything. Everything that they say they want to do. They give you an excuse, but it has nothing to do with why they want to do what they want to do, because they know you wouldn't support their goals. What do they want to do? They just want to pay for less things that you use, they being rich people. They want personal power for themselves, unchecked. They want to be able to basically live like your kings. You, an American possibly, regardless, a modern person who does not bend the knee, one would hope, to anybody. Not unless you're getting knighted. They know you wouldn't like that. So they need to give you, they need to put on a play for you, essentially. And they tell you, well, you're in danger is the thing. That's the thing. We know if we keep promising you money, you will eventually ask me where it is. So I must promise you something other than money so I can say I'm doing that. I know what we'll do. We'll take a whole group of people and we'll start calling them illegals. And that will mean many different things, so that whenever you say illegals, the person you're talking to get out of social awkwardness, will assume you mean the best possible thing they can stomach. And now maybe you mean, when you say illegals, maybe you mean immigrants that do crimes when they're over here. Maybe you mean immigrants who came over here without notifying the government first and then immediately notified the government, which is what the standard, it's actually a perfectly legal way to immigrate, but maybe that's what you mean anyway. Or maybe you mean people that came over here and never notified the government. Or maybe you mean people that came over here, notified the government, and then their time they were allowed to be here expired. And they stayed a little too long. You know how sometimes you'll forget you have an appointment coming up? Like it happens, let's say, once every 6 months, and you go, oh, shoot, what month is it? It's June? It's June. I thought this thing was supposed to be in July. And now here I am, halfway through June, and I haven't gone to the meeting. Like that. Maybe that's what you mean. The beautiful thing is, what it really only means is brown people. What it really only means is anybody they can get away with harassing. Remember what I said about the Laffer curve. Remember how, if it was just a moment ago easy for you to see how they lie to you about one thing, understand that other things that they're lying about might not be as easy. Until it affects you personally, like it did with this guy.
It's financially as well as emotionally. It takes a toll.
Vincent, you voted for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
He thought the Trump administration was going to focus solely on deporting criminals. It seems immigration officials, he says, are just trying to meet quotas now. 6 Nicaraguan men who on May 27th were detained along US 1 in Sugarloaf Key on their way to a job. Their immigration attorney says it should not have happened because 5 of the 6 have their paperwork in order with pending asylum cases. Vincent Scardina is the owner of the roofing company where they worked. He's owned it 37 years.
You become their friends, just not an employer, but a friend. And you see what happens to their family. It's quite a shock.
Given his support for the president, we asked what he would tell the commander-in-chief if he had a chance.
What happened here? This situation is just totally, just blatantly not at all what they said it was.
That guy owned that roofing company for 37 years. Half of his workers, he says, were these Nicaraguan fellas. Now, why do you reckon he had all these Nicaraguans working for him? Do you think possibly he was paying them a little bit less than you would have paid somebody born in the United States? Do you think that might have been it? Maybe. I honestly don't know, but I suspect that was probably the case. And that's not uncommon. If you got a job to do in the United States and you need a bunch of people to help you do it, and you don't have pals around, and you do have about $200, that's a great way to get a crew. What is a great way? Well, you go to Home Depot, you see a bunch of dudes standing outside, you say, hey, I need 10 of you for 2 hours. Who wants to make $10 an hour? There's an easy way to get it done. When this guy voted for Trump, clearly he did not think he would be affecting his own business. Clearly, when he was hearing illegals, he was imagining something different than the people he worked with every single day. But now he sees that what those insufferable lefties were saying was 100% correct. There's no principle guiding Trump's actions. There never has been. There never will be, beyond enriching himself and distracting you. When you are giving ICE permission to, first of all, exist. Y'all don't remember, I can tell. But ICE is a George W. Bush invention. I saw it get invented. I said it was unnecessary at the time. Lo and behold, I was also correct about that. Nonetheless, when you give ICE permission to run through your neighborhood in unmarked vehicles without identification on their clothes, pointing guns, assault rifles in people's faces, going into homes, poking around businesses, when you allow them to do that, right-leaning voter, understand, number one, a bunch of those guys that they picked up were not in any way doing anything illegal. Understand, number two, the reason they say they're going after these people is so that you give them the power. You're not giving them the power so they can do a thing. They're doing a thing so you give them the power, and they don't give it back. They said they would. In 2007, they said they would. In 2006, they said they would. I misspoke when I said 2007. But when ICE came into being, when they started tapping people's phones, when they have violated the Republicans, when they violated everybody's rights, they said it's because these scary Browns, once upon a time it was Middle Eastern scary Browns, and it from time to time bounces back to being Southern Hemisphere scary Browns. But nonetheless, they said when these scary Browns are dealt with, then we'll think about giving back the power. They never do. Right-wingers, you are the reason America is less free. You are the reason America is less rich. And you know what? You should be a little bit flattered, because the Republican Party has spent billions of dollars to sway your opinion because they need your vote. If you want America to improve, Republican voter, you have to change. And, you don't need to suddenly become a genius at politics. You simply have to stop making the same basic mistake over and over again. And you have to stop letting your friends and your family make the same basic mistake over and over again. Once you find out that you are being willfully lied to by a person or a group of people, you have an obligation to stop listening to them. We know that Fox News knew the 2020 election was not stolen. Even if you think it was, first of all, you're obviously wrong, very provably wrong. But let's say you think it was because you've only listened to Fox News and you thought you were getting good information, and you didn't listen to the court cases that Fox News was in, you know, about this thing that you believe. In court, they had to admit that they didn't think it was true when they were telling you about it. So again, even if separate from that, you think that the 2020 election was stolen, understand that when Fox was telling you that it was, they didn't believe it. They thought they were lying to you. I would phrase it better as they knew they were lying to you. But regardless of what you believe, you need to accept that Fox, collectively and individually, as in the individual hosts and the whole group in discussions amongst themselves, knew that they were lying about the 2020 election when they told you there was problems with it. They knew they were lying. Which means you must never listen to them again. The Republican Party, man, any major policy they have ever tried to push, they knew was built upon lies. Never listen to them ever again. Because before this moment, it was not your fault. And after this moment, it will be.